All right, mics are hot.
One gulp, and I'm ready to go. We doing overtime?
I am.
Okay.
Whether you're doing it or not, I'm sitting here.
All right, cool. Let me make sure I pull it up. Just get ready. X's and Omar. Okay, I did save a couple of questions that were late. Questions were so late. Such a challenge. I was not pleased. Go ahead. All right.
All right, we ready?
Yep.
All right. We're live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to the off-season edition of X's and Omar, alongside the Sentinel Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly.
About the vacation, Omar Kelly.
Lucky you. Some of us have a regular day job. I'm CBS 12 Sports Director Matt Lincoln. Off-season workouts are over. We've got about 6 weeks until training camp gets started, and it's all about zeroing in, right? It's starting fresh. That is the mantra going into the season.
Zero in, which is the mentality of, while they made the playoffs, while they were a 10-6 team last year, first playoff berth since 2008, this team, the 2017 team, has done nothing to get back to that point. It was all about putting in that work now. And certainly, I think we've seen improvements on certain things. This is probably, the offense wasn't good, but it was probably the best that I've seen Ryan Tannehill in spurts. In the Sun Sentinel, I did an off-season superlative in terms of guys who really impressed offense, defense, guys who disappointed, guys who were surprises. And Ryan Tannehill was my top performer. Mm-hmm. And the reason he was my top performer is, one, all of us thought he'd be limping around. He was not. In fact, at the end of the OTAs, end of minicamp, there were rollout plays. There were the first play of 11 on 11 in that final practice was a QB scramble, and he looks like the same quarterback. So certainly, they're putting a lot of work to improve this team defensively, because we know you can't get worse than 6,122 yards, worse than franchise history, and put in a lot of work offensively. Now, are they a finished product? No, they're far from it, but the work has been put in.
Yeah, and over the last 4 weeks of actually watching them out there, there are some things that you can take out of it that will carry over. Some things we're not sure whether they will, but it's our first time to see some of the newcomers on the field for the first time. What was your impression of some of the key players that they brought in free agency and the draft?
Well, let's start with Lawrence Timmons, who I thought was my favorite offseason addition. He looks like the same player he was in Pittsburgh. A little heavy. Mm-hmm. Very physical. We will see more physicality from him when the pads come on. I would love for him to lose a little weight. Not that I could be picky or point it out. But if you're going to be an outside linebacker, which I think they envision him and Kiko Alonso both serving on the outside, and then somebody coming in on first and second downs, rundowns to work on the inside. If you're going to be an outside linebacker, the Patriots are going to line up Rob Gronkowski against you, and they're going to be running routes. You've got to be in great shape if you're going to be covering the tight ends of the NFL. So that's one area for Lawrence Timmons that I think needs to improve. The safety play, Nate Allen and TJ McDonald. Mm-hmm. I was impressed.
Making a lot of plays out there.
Making a lot of plays. The secondary overall improved. But Nate Allen, TJ McDonald probably impressed me a little bit more than Nate Allen. But I like the fact that Nate Allen has the range that you need to serve as a center fielder, which is very important to play with Rashad Jones. And then we get to probably my favorite performer to watch during the offseason program, which was Charles Harris. Mm-hmm. The Dolphins' first-round pick was pretty damn good. Yeah. Every practice, and you were out there, every practice, and I say this, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, there were at least 6 plays where he was either creating a pressure or would have produced a would-be sack or would have produced a hurry. Very disruptive player. Now, yeah, it's OTAs. Yeah, they aren't wearing pads. Yeah, Jawan James wasn't practicing for 1 week. Then Laramie Tunsil didn't practice for 2 weeks. So I'm not saying he's going up against the best tackle situation in the world, but it's good when you see a rookie pass rusher be disruptive. I've watched rookie pass rushers in the past. Let's go to Olivier Vernon, who has got an astronomical deal with the Giants. Charles Harris was better than Olivier Vernon. Watched Deion Jordan, who,
Right.
I still have to mention it because he was a first-round pick of the Dolphins. This guy has 10 times more pass rushing skills and ability and moves than Deion Jordan had. Deion Jordan didn't have any pass rushing moves, which is why I always said he was probably better suited to be a linebacker. Well, Charles Harris, he's a pass rusher.
Well, regardless of who the tackles were, there are more oohs and ahs for him in regards to the other pass rushers who are currently on the team. And there are some good pass rushers
Now,
on this team.
those pass rushers don't necessarily. Cameron Wake, let's be fair to Cameron Wake. Cam doesn't practice very hard.
No, he doesn't.
In general.
There's lots of him with the helmet off, just kind of looking around. There's lots of that during practice
When
with Cam.
Cam practices, Cam goes and blocks his right tackle, and then that's it. He's like, okay, I'm done. I've done my job. So he plays differently in a game than he does in practice. This is just universally known.
Sure.
And Andre Branch, I thought Andre Branch last OTAs was very impressive, and it made me think, oh, this guy could be a starter. I'm not saying anything has changed, but what I am saying is on third downs, you're going to see Charles Harris and not Andre Branch.
You said that the way that the linebackers were going to set up was the veterans on the outside and someone would be in on the inside. What did you think of Raekwon McMillan?
I didn't think it wasn't, I expect an inside linebacker, and I know a lot is being thrown at him at a very short period of time. Inside linebackers have to react. They have to see it, diagnose it, get to it. It wasn't happening fast enough. It was like, and it will get better. It will become faster, but he reminded me a lot of Jelani Jenkins, where it's like, okay, you're a step slow. You're reacting a little bit slow. You're almost at the play. And to me, I'm sure they're going to continue to invest in, but if give me a healthy Koamisi and Raekwon McMillan, I'm taking the Koamisi.
It's early.
It's early.
So obviously you're a big fan of what Ryan Tannehill and Charles Harris have done this during this OTAs. Who disappointed you during these OTAs and minicamp?
I don't know what I expected from Julius Thomas. Let me be honest with you, because when I watched his film from Jacksonville, I was like, I don't see it. It looked like a veteran who got his money, got a little heavy, and kind of lost his desire. And no disrespect to Julius Thomas. This is the offseason program. He knows the offense. He's developing chemistry with Ryan Tannehill. He's got work to do on his body. This is the offseason program. But I didn't see a player who made me feel like he can be an impact player. I saw the Jacksonville tight end version of Julius Thomas and not the Denver Broncos version of Julius Thomas. Wasn't a factor in the red zone. Really, unless the play was called and designed for him, wasn't a factor in the offense. And when Ryan Tannehill did seek him out, they didn't really connect. There's a chemistry issue there. This is now the second tight end, including Jordan Cameron, where we've got a chemistry issue with Ryan Tannehill. So hopefully this can be fixed. And then to another rookie, Isaac Asiata, fifth-round pick. I had high hopes for him. Liked him in the draft. Very physical, mauling blocker. And I say this again, no pads. So it's hard to evaluate offensive lineman, trench play, no pads. But as a pass protector, saw him get burrowed in a lot, compromising the pocket. He got better as camp went on. But I looked at him and was just like, don't see a starter. Don't see a rookie starter. And I had hoped to see a rookie starter. Don't see a rookie starter. Maybe he started next year, but I don't see a rookie starter right now. I don't see anybody challenging Ted Larson and Jermon Bushrod for those starting spots. They're your starters.
Okay, let's take our first Twitter question. It comes from Emperor Ira, and it's about Julius Thomas. In your opinion, what does Julius Thomas look like so far? Solid option or washed up? Is he closer to solid option or is he washed up?
Oh, he's closer to solid
option. He's closer to solid option.
I would say if he comes to training camp, probably loses 10 pounds. You might see a more fluid athlete. It's the off season. I've got good 7 pounds to lose.
Sure.
And I will lose them in 5 weeks. If he comes to camp, at training camp, and the exhibition season, and performs like he did at training camp, I'd probably slide him into that washed up category. You will make do with him. He'll be a player for you, but if you're expecting him to be an impact player, no. You're probably going to have a platoon with Anthony Fasano. I was honestly more impressed with Anthony Fasano during OTAs than I was Julius Thomas. No disrespect to Julius Thomas, but that's just the reality of where I sat.
Yeah. There's one thing for sure, and that is that Adam Gase has big plans for Julius Thomas. Whether or not he can get the chemistry with Ryan Tannehill, or whether or not he can go through with those plans that are there for him, it's something altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at it. Adam Gase loves him. Adam Gase loves the leadership that he brings to the team. Adam Gase loves the upside that he has as a potential red zone target, because a lot of people have this theory that Devontae Parker's a red zone target. He's not. He hasn't been for the last 2 years. He's just not. He's not a jump ball guy. Well, at least Ryan has a jump ball guy now. So maybe we get more touchdowns than the 4 that he gave you in Jacksonville last year. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully he's a better run blocker. I think that's where the biggest area of growth needs to be made in Julius Thomas. Even though he's 28 and he's a 6-year veteran, he needs to get better as a run blocker so that when he comes on the field, he's not telegraphing exactly what he's doing and what the intentions are.
I mean, I think if the expectation is that you're going to get more production out of your tight ends this year than last year, I think you can still have that expectation.
As a unit, I liked what I saw. The Chris Patella, Marquise Gray, I like them, the foursome, not necessarily the Thomas Duarte now. Right. But I like the unit, and I think that they can get just as much, if not better work from the unit, because Jordan Cameron's Julius Thomas, probably an upgrade over Jordan Cameron. Never ever
let's hope so.
Yeah. And then even though Anthony Fasano is older than Deion Sims, Anthony Fasano is a very polished tight end. Just run blocking better than Deion Sims. And, okay, for a shade of a drop-off as a pass catcher, it's okay. You'll be all right.
Sure. All right, let's take our next question. It comes from Jabari. Will the Finns D be good against the run this year? Keyword there is good. Better. Yes.
You hope.
Good.
You hope.
Good.
I mean, as the running joke amongst Matt Burke and Adam Gase and everybody, well, it can't get worse.
Right.
Yeah. They've improved the linebacker unit. Rashad Jones comes back. They've got a safety. Both safeties are more physical than Issa Abdul Kudus. Start there. The ends haven't necessarily. Oh, William Hayes. I always forget about William Hayes. Probably one of the top 5 run-stopping defensive ends in the NFL. So what you do is, on a running team, you put him on the primary side that you're running. Maybe it stops it. My concern is, Lord, the inside the defensive tackle spots.
Right.
If Jordan Phillips and Ndamukong Suh aren't keeping things clean for the linebackers, you could be in trouble. Again, like you were last year. And so I need to see development from Jordan Phillips. I need to see development from some of the young, unestablished players, the Vincent Taylors and the Davin Godchilds. You got a mix of mystery meat up in that defensive tackle spot. And truth be told, I'm not a huge fan of their coach. Just look at the production and the track record of what he's done. It's not very impressive. And you're going to continue and carry on and expect the edges to be set better and expect the defensive tackles to serve as pillars of granite. Well, when have they done that in the last 2 years?
I mean, when you have one guy who's taking on 2 and sometimes 3 defenders, then the other guy shouldn't be that much of a liability. He's only got one guy.
Let's hope that Jordan Phillips wakes up and realizes that, you can't live on potential for forever. And he's got ability. He's definitely got ability. Sure. You see flashes of him. He's good for 15 plays a game. Problem is, he's got to play at least 30.
Right.
Well, Dolphins need you to get to the 30 good plays range.
All right, let's take a question from Drizzy. Name one player on offense and defense that are free agents that immediately make this team better.
Ooh, I like that question. I could name 2 players, and they both got Miami connections. Orlando Franklin offensive guard, got a history with Adam Gase back in the Denver days. He's played both tackle, he's played both guards. He was recently released by the San Diego Chargers for money situation. He's healthy. He's working out down here with Pete Bomarito. He's already here. Why wouldn't you make an offer of a $3 million, 1 year, $3 million deal just for him to serve as your veteran backup left tackle and possibly push Ted Larson for the starting spot? Why not? You act like you have a good left tackle. If something happens to Laramie Tunsil, what is your option? Let's say Laramie Tunsil suffers a hamstring strain like he had during training camp here, like he had during mini camp here, and has to sit out, let's say, 6 weeks.
Right.
I know you won without Brandon Albert and Mike Pouncey and even Laramie Tunsil for a portion of the season. I know you won without him. Props to you. Props to you. How good do you think the Miami Dolphins would be with Sam Young starting as the left tackle for 6 games this season?
Not very good. Not very good.
And no disrespect to Sam Young. I think he's a competent and adequate right tackle. But 6 games is a large sample size to hold it down.
Well, and are we sure that Orlando Franklin's not better than the Dolphins starting right tackle?
Wow, that's a good one. And then I'll give you another player. I am the 2 areas of this team that make me a little queasy. To quote Joe Philbin, make me a little queasy. Defensive line and offensive line.
Yeah.
You are a tackle short. You are an edge setting defensive tackle shy on defense. I would love to see Jared Odrick. I know he's got a personality that's a little complicated. I know. But let's not pretend like he can't play. And if you add him to the mold of what they can do, he can play inside, he can play defensive tackle just like William Hayes. Well, don't act like it's going to cost you that much money. He's out there unemployed for a reason. You're just asking me what can be done to improve the team. I tell you, both of those players can improve the team.
All right. Well, let's talk about how some of the current players that are on the team can improve in ways that we were a little disappointed in them last year. So what I'm going to do is talk about a few guys here, young guys who may be disappointed in one area of their game and have talked about improving that this year, whether or not that can actually happen or whether it's just talk. All right, let's talk about first Jay Ajayi. Is talking about getting a lot more carries this year, but he was not very good catching balls out of the backfield. Is that something that you saw maybe improve a little bit?
Oh, definitely. It wasn't a strength last year. I remember last year when I was OTAs and I was saying, why can't Jay Ajayi catch the ball? He caught like 600 passes at Boise State, and it just wasn't coming. The routes that they ask you to run are a little bit different. You have to be your markers, your points. And he just couldn't get it. He couldn't grasp it. He worked with Ryan Tannehill this offseason with the receivers, running routes to get himself on the right page. And truthfully speaking, the improvement is there. Now, would I stop visiting the jugs machine and stop working on my hands? No. But Jay Ajayi looks like he's put himself in position to be an every down back. Now, with that said, don't minimize Damian Williams' role or his impact. He's still the best pass blocking running back that the team has, and probably still the best pass catching running back the team has. Like Damian Williams, don't sleep on him. People disrespect Damian, so I'm not sure I would minimize Damian's role just to add more carries or more plays on the field for Jay Ajayi. Jay Ajayi's true value is grinding out the game, wearing out defenses, not catching passes out the backfield.
It's good to know that you can do it, though.
Yeah.
How about Leonte Carew? Lost weight. He's playing faster. Is he going to be something where he was nothing last year?
I'm not sure I'm ready to say he's going to be something just because you've got 3 well-established wide receivers in Jarvis Landry, Kenny Stills, and Devontae Parker. But what I will say is he lost weight and has picked up a little bit of speed. When my main criticism of Leonte last year was he couldn't run a 9 round, so that's canceled out. All this talk of him replacing Kenny Stills, that wasn't happening. He is a big physical possession receiver. He's more in the mold of Devontae Parker. And I'm seeing him play faster, practice faster. Will it mean he's going to be an impact player or step in if somebody goes down? Probably. His goal should be try to be the Rashad Matthews of this unit, where tough, physical, hey, killing it on special teams. Hopefully that's where he can be.
All right, let's take our next one. It's Jakeem Grant. Said he's been working on his hands and then hopes to be a bigger part of the offense this year. What'd you see?
Not good hands. It's just consistent.
Yeah.
One, he's got a small catch radius. He's a small guy, small catch radius, very limited in terms of the routes that he can run. They've stopped trying to make him a slot receiver. They've moved on from that. Now they've got him on the outside. Can you run a 9? Not with bigger cornerbacks on you, unless you're just blazing right past them. And then here's the problem I have with receivers that struggle catching the ball. I call it the Derek Hagan syndrome. Do you remember Derek Hagan?
I do remember Derek Hagan, yeah.
If I'm a quarterback and I'm going to throw you the ball, and even if it's perfect, there's a 33% chance you're going to drop it, I'm not going to throw you the ball.
It's small chance it's going to be perfect anyway.
True.
And he's
Jakeem,
he's dropping way too many. He's dropping balls in drills. I mean, we saw him drop balls in drills.
It drives me nuts. Don't imagine how it drives the coaches nuts. And I'm not saying he's the only one dropping balls, but it's consistent. He might have a good day, but then there are 2 other days where it's like, and then he double catches everything. He fights the ball too much. And it just makes me very uncomfortable. And hopefully he gets to the point where he gains confidence. And I know this doesn't help, because if I tell you, your hands suck every day. And every time the ball is coming, you're thinking, oh, God, I got to catch it, I got to catch it. It's not a good thing. But, man, it's a struggle.
What they need to do, University of Arkansas used to run this play where the offense would break the break huddle, and they'd have this little guy, and he'd hide like underneath like the center, and they'd snap it right to him, and he would go running out, and no one would see him because he's too small. They need to run that play a couple times a game to give him a little bit more.
Here's my, and people want to know, what do I have this obsession with Jakeem Grant? I don't have an obsession with Jakeem Grant. What I do have is, I'm not a big believer in gimmick players. I don't believe in gimmick players. If I have to run gimmicks for you, to me, the value that you have on an NFL roster is how many jobs can you do?
Right. Versatility.
Value I have to the Sun Sentinels. How many damn jobs do I do? Well, Jakeem Grant can't do anything but return. Can't really trust him as a receiver. Any other jobs you could do?
Defensive tackle? No,
hopefully.
I don't think so.
He's got to be killing it. If he makes a 53, he's got to be killing it as a returner just to make the game day roster. Because, truthfully speaking, Kenyon Drake can return. Jarvis Landry can return. Damian Williams can return. Like, and being on an NFL roster is not guaranteed to you. You have to produce. And you have to be reliable. You have to be consistent. There's just not enough of that with Jakeem right now. And you're a 6th-round pick. There's no guarantee you'll be here.
Let's segue from consistency to talking more about Jordan Phillips.
Okay.
He came out and said at his press conference that he knows what his situation is, and he knows that he needs to prove everything, and he knows this and he knows that.
Said everything you want to hear, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Did he say that again? Did he say that last year?
I think he did say it. Yeah, he said it last year.
How did that turn out?
Okay.
So, the one lesson that I've learned, I've covered the Dolphins now, this is going to be my 11th season. The good players are internally driven. Nobody got to motivate them. Nobody got to light a fire under them. Nobody has to demote them. The just good players are internally driven. When you have all the talent in the world and somebody's got to motivate you, or somebody's got to push you, or somebody's got to call you out, those guys don't last very long. And that's Jordan Phillips.
How about, let's talk a little bit about Kenyon Drake, because there has been a lot of discussion about Jay Ajayi getting all of these carries.
Oh, yeah.
So many carries.
They were counting playoff games. So let's throw in,
Okay.
3 playoff games, that's 60 carries, yeah.
I mean, King Kenyon Drake, he's talked about getting a bigger role, and of course, it'd be nice to have another every down running back that can get a little more carries. Have you seen anything of Kenyon Drake?
Yeah. I've seen what Adam Gase complained about. At the owners' meeting, it was a weird thing because we were just throwing out guys, mentioning names, and then he was just like, Kenyon Drake, he drives me crazy. He drives me bonkers. And I never understood what he was talking about until Drake explained it, Gase explained it, and then I saw it.
Yeah.
Their play is designed, and sometimes the play isn't for you. But
Right.
your job is going to free up somebody else.
Right.
If you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're not going to free up somebody else. And you just see Kenyon, sometimes there are instances where he ad-libs, or he breaks script, or he takes a run that's supposed to be in this gap, and he's like, oh, let me go put it in this gap. And it just makes you a little bit uncomfortable. And discipline is what's important when you're an offensive coordinator. Be where you're supposed to be. Do what you're supposed to do, and I think he's still got a ways to go with that.
And Devontae Parker said he's working to become a little bit of a better professional.
Yes.
We saw that a little bit during this.
Yeah.
Working harder in practice.
This started. Remember last year when I said, "Well, Devontae doesn't really go that hard in practice. He doesn't really push himself, and it impacts your play." You practice. I've always, well, except for Cameron Wake, there are rare exceptions where you practice like you play. Devontae has all the tools to be dominant.
Yeah.
I've said this how many times on the show. There is A.J. Green in Devontae Parker. He can do what he wants to do. He just has to bring it out. And he has to develop chemistry with Ryan Tannehill. He's never been healthy enough in his first 2 years to develop chemistry with Ryan Tannehill. This is the first time where you see them actually say, we got chemistry. Let me throw it. He's not open, but let me throw it to him anyway. And Devontae deliver. And you're like, let me keep doing this. And you started to see Ryan come out of his shell when Devontae, you know what Jarvis Landry's going to do. You know what Kenny Stills is going to do. Kenny Stills, you sleep on him, he's going to be open deep.
Yeah.
Devontae is sort of the X factor because you don't know what he can bring. But if he brings a big slant runner, big comeback runner, big target that can even go hit you deep, there's no real weakness in his game, except for kind of red zone work. So it's a missing ingredient. It's a missing element, and you saw him start to bring it out.
All right, let's take on more questions. This is from Jose. What do you think is Devontae Parker's ceiling this year? Will he be the primary receiver?
You'll never be the primary receiver. Jarvis Landry is the primary receiver, especially going into a contract year. Everybody, including Adam Gase and Ryan Tannehill, is going to take care of Jarvis Landry if he does not get a deal done. Now, with that said, I do believe that Devontae Parker has the potential to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I think Devontae Parker has the potential to put up 6 to 7 touchdowns this season. This is an offense that's very diverse. It's spread out. Tight end's going to eat. Running back's going to eat too. Jarvis is definitely going to eat. Kenny's going to eat. Devontae's going to eat. There are only so many balls to go around. But if you ask me who probably will lead in yardage this season, I'd say Devontae has a good chance in terms from a receiving core.
But Jarvis might have 30 more catches.
Jarvis moves the chains, baby.
Yeah,
That's
you need
what
to do it. All right, Hector, what do you think about Anquan Boldin wanting to play in Florida? Could you see him helping Miami?
I definitely can see him helping Miami. If something happens to Jarvis Landry, he goes away.
Right.
Anquan Boldin, I went and trained with Tony Villani in Boca. He's bringing a facility down in Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to go check it out. Anquan Boldin's there it amazed me at 34, 35, how hard he worked, how much he looked better than the younger players that were there training, and we're talking about pros, blew my mind. And then he went on to play for the Lions and had a very respectable season. I think he's a timeless, ageless player. Think he can still play in the NFL. Does he fit for the Miami Dolphins? Absolutely not. Now, if sometimes Jarvis Landry, like let's just say, and knock on wood, Jarvis tears his knee. Yeah, Anquan, holla at me.
Yeah, right.
What you doing about now? But you don't need this team is investing in young players.
You don't need Anquan Boldin.
You don't need Anquan Boldin.
Okay.
Not now.
Let's talk about one of the players that became a
Folk hero.
folk hero. Let's go with folk hero.
Internet legend. Yeah.
Ryan-
And I contributed to that. I will take full ownership of that.
All
Yes.
right. Ryan, who has never seen Drew Morgan catch
Mm-hmm.
a pass, run a route, anything. Can Drew Morgan make the 53-man roster, and could that cause Jakeem Grant or Leonte Carroo to lose their roster spot?
Yes, he could.
Okay.
I didn't know who Drew. I don't watch college football, and I certainly don't watch the SEC. Pleasant surprise from day one to the final day of training camp. This little slot receiver, this little jitterbug. I call him deceptively fast. People who follow me on Twitter, they know what deceptively fast means. He's white. Elusive, drops into holes in coverage, makes himself quarterback friendly. I haven't seen a undrafted receiver have that kind of play and impact since Devon Bess. Now, with this said, Matt Moore always finds a favorite receiver.
Yeah, right.
That's just Matt Moore's thing. He's just like, okay, who do I like this year? And instead of Jakeem Grant and Leonte Carroo, he liked Drew Morgan. And that's who he went to. And not just him, but a lot of the other receivers, the David Fales and the Brandon Doughty. Quarterbacks like receivers who are going to get open.
Right.
This guy gets open and he catches it. So can he make the 53? Yes. Will he make the 53? No. I think he's probably going to be developed on a practice squad. And then if something happens to another receiver, call him up. I think the only way that he can make the 53 is if he's a head buster on special teams.
Right.
Now, if this guy goes out and he's a flyer, he's a gunner, and he's killing people in exhibition season on special teams, or the Dolphins are worried that somebody's going to claim him and take away what they've invested in, but no, nobody's going to do that.
No one's going to do that, no.
Because they're going to be drafted receivers who are going to be released and cut. So nobody's going to do that. But I see him sticking around and probably being on the practice squad.
All right. All right, let's move on and talk a little bit about expectations. And this is a team that won 10 games last year.
Only God knows how.
After being 1-4.
Let me not say that, because they were well coached.
Yeah.
They overcame adversity. They fought hard and won fourth quarter games.
They were winners.
They were the anti-Dolphins.
Yeah.
Props to Adam Gase for that.
all of those games, it's remarkable that they figured out a way to win all those games. And now the question is, even though we're zeroing in, we're forgetting all of that, can that same winning mentality be tapped in again and get that same success for 2017?
Absolutely. And let me quote Cameron Wake. Last year was the first time that he ever made it to the playoffs. Cam always knew there was something wrong with his team. He never could figure out what it was. And last year, they figured it out. And they finished games. There's always, you got to dig deeper. You got to work harder. You got to push yourself. You got to strain. Remember those shirts that said strain?
Yeah.
Strain to the finish. They brought out those shirts, and what did they do? They won 9 of 11 games at the end of the season after starting 1-4. They strained to the finish, and when the odds were against them and they were playing with their fourth safety, they found a way to make it work. And they couldn't stop the run to save their life. They found a way to make it work.
They had no tight ends.
They had no tight ends. They found a way to make it work. So the question is, they had to learn from that.
Right.
And Cameron Wake said something last week. He was like, we know what it took to get there. We know what it took to get to that disappointing point. We know what it felt like to be embarrassed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now we know exactly how hard we have to work and do more.
All right. So give me reasons why they will tap into that success again, and maybe some reasons for why they won't.
Let's start with the will. Adam Gase was an excellent coach. I didn't know how good of a coach he was until you start to have context of, let me see who I've covered. Tony Sperano, Todd Bowles, Joe Philbin, Dan Campbell. Like, collectively, they all don't have what Adam Gase has. Relatability, a moxiness, an arrogance to him, confidence, offensive guru, a guy, a quarterback whisperer who could help your quarterback develop. Just look at the improvements that you're seeing from Ryan Tannehill that were just noticeable improvements last year. And that was his first year in the offense. That was also the offense's first year in the offense. They should take that next step. Now, hopefully, if the defense takes that next step and let's say becomes a top 16 unit, you should be pretty good. Mm-hmm. I think 9 wins is the basement of what I expect from the Dolphins with injury. And if luck goes on their side again, we could be talking about 10, if not 11 wins. Mm-hmm. So I do believe that they can win again. They've got a deeper roster. Think about better. This roster. Sure. Think about last year's roster. One of the main complaints we had was they were paper thin, and then they lost players to injury. They lost to Rashad Jones. They lost Mike Pouncey. They played without Brandon Albert. They, linebackers. Jelani was in and out. Kiko was playing on one hand. A lot of people are healthier, and they're deeper now. They've got 5, if not 6 linebackers who are capable starters. Mm-hmm. Look at the safeties. TJ McDonald, Michael Thomas are your backups. Yeah. Look at the cornerbacks. They're like 5 deep at cornerback. Defensively, they're deep. Offensively, I like the running backs. I like the wide receivers. I actually like the tight end unit. Could use a little, Julius Thomas could take it to the next level. Quarterback, you know what Matt Moore can do, baby. To me, I like the pass rushers. I just have 2 issues. Offensive tackle, defensive tackle. Coincidentally, they both end with tackle.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, and what about, so is that why they will not?
Yeah.
Is if those tackle positions fail them?
Your offensive line was the catalyst of your team last year,
mm-hmm.
and they did that with injuries. They did that fighting through adversity. They said, put the team on our back. This run game will carry this offense. Coincidentally, did you know that the Dolphins only ran for over 100 yards 6 times last season?
Wow, no, I did not know that.
They were a running team.
Yeah.
They had a lot of 200-yard games. But they weren't consistent and efficient. And I think that the only way that this team can become very effective offense is if that running game is forceful. Make it forceful. Don't give yourself an excuse of, well, we got Sam Young out there. Or, right. Jermon Bushrod, he's playing with a knee injury. No, get yourself some capable backups. Get yourself a guy like Orlando Franklin that could push somebody out of that starting unit. Yeah, no shame if Ted Larson isn't a starter. Oh, well, mm-hmm. Make Ted Larson earn that job.
Right.
And I'm just not seeing that. Now, defensive tackle. Ugh. Defensive line, like the pass rushers, as I said. Charles Harris, Cameron Wake, Andre Branch, William Hayes, even Terrence Fede can get the job done. And Ndamukong Suh's only one man. Yeah. He's the only one man. And if I'm playing with somebody who might show up and might not show up, oh yeah. Think about that friend who's like, I might come, I might not.
Right, you don't know. Yeah.
I'm not. I'm going to try to do it.
Sometimes when he shows up, he's a good time.
Yeah. I'm going to do it on my own, man.
Right.
Yeah. If you tell me you might show up to pick me up from the airport, I'm going to figure out a way to get home.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's take our next questions before we run out of time here. Lasner Sport. Who does Damian Williams remind you of?
I'm a big Damian Williams fan.
Yeah.
The toughness, the moxie, the attitude. It's it's hard to bottle. I like the performance. Told you he's the best pass catcher, best pass blocker. So the only comparison I could put is Kevin Falk for the New England Patriots, former LSU standout. Just a guy who's going to give you everything. Special teams. Who had more? What was the shirts and the sweaters that they had for top performer? I forget what they called it. But he had the most sweat. They were giving out shirts, and yeah, he had the most shirts. Adam Gase. Here's the thing. Damian Williams' personality. If you got to know Damian Williams, you would see the Adam Gase in Damian Williams.
Sure.
That's why they kind of like each other and relate, because they're both kind of the same dude. So Damian Williams, I'm a huge fan. I hope he continues to have a good role, important role, and Kevin Falk is best comparison.
Gase told a story about how Williams was inactive for the Patriots game last year, and instead of sitting on the sidelines and pouting, he was, wheeling his towel around.
Energy.
On the white, on the sidelines.
Yeah.
The referees yelling him to get back, and just he's the guy that brings it.
He definitely brings it every day.
All right.
And that's what Gaze wants an entire team of guys like Jarvis Landry and Damian Williams. An entire team full of them. Now, can that work? There's too many dogs in the kennel. But yes, I get his mentality.
Anti-Jordan Phillips. Dre Day, what type of third down package would you use to fit Andre Branch, Cam Wake, Charles Harris, and Ndamukong Suh on the field together?
That's a great question.
Okay.
Because I'm actually going to bring up what they've done in the past in terms of the speed package.
Right.
It was designed for Deion Jordan. They use it in Cincinnati Bengals, so clearly Matt Burke should be well aware. I believe they even had some of those packages designed for Cole Messi last year. Put them on the field. 3-man down, 5 standing up roaming.
Right.
I would do that on third downs just about every play. I like the speed package. I think with Ndamukong Suh, Cameron Wake, Andre Branch, and then you have Charles Harris standing up with the linebacker standing up. You don't know who's coming and who's going. That, to me, is an amazing package, and that's the package that I would really
Do we
use.
know enough about Charles Harris, about whether or not he can back up if he's not coming?
He was a linebacker in Missouri.
All right.
He was a linebacker, so
That's
he
true.
could drop back. And if he can't drop back, Cameron Wake was a linebacker. Linebacker at Penn State, linebacker to begin his career at the Dolphins. He's old now, but he could still, he got an interception
I'm not
last
going
year.
to use that word to
Hey,
his face.
See, listen.
To his face.
I know
That's
how
gonna get
Cam
to
works.
him.
I know how
It's gonna
Cam
get to him.
works. If you'd like me to call you old, you are 35. You are 35. You are old, Cam Wake. Like wine, but old.
Like old. Jeffrey Greer, last question. Who are the rookies that have a realistic chance to start in 2017?
Raekwon McMillan. I've been here, done this too long to not know that second-round picks get jobs handed to them.
Right.
It'll probably be handed to him, sink or swim. If he swims, great. He'll continue to learn and develop. If he sinks, hey, Mike Hall, hey, Cole Messi, go out here and do this job. Charles Harris, we all know, is going to be situational pass
Doesn't
rusher.
really matter if
Yeah.
it doesn't start. Right.
And Devon Godchow and then Vincent Taylor, I think both of them have a chance to be a 15-snap per game kind of player based on what they do on special teams, based on how they anchor on that defensive line. And Asiata, if something happens, both Ted Larson and Jermon Bushrod, they're older gentlemen. Something can happen, a tweak
Sure.
of a hamstring here. He will, Isaac Asiata will get his window in training camp and the exhibition season to unseat one of these guys. When that window of opportunity comes, you better swing that door open, kick that door open. So we'll
All right.
see.
Wow. Last question.
You got it?
Overall, for the last how long we've been talking, have we making too many claims over what we just saw of 4 weeks of guys working without pads?
No.
Okay.
Because people say that, but I say I've been covering this for 11 years. Practicing no pads looks the exact same to me as practicing pads.
All right.
It all looks the same.
It looks the same.
It all looks the same. Yeah. Do the Dolphins run when they have pads on? Do the Dolphins do running plays in practice?
Yeah, no, they don't. No, they don't.
So sitting here and saying, "Oh well, they weren't running in practice in OTAs." Okay, well they never run in practice. So what's the difference?
Right.
So yeah, when you never run in practice, don't be surprised you're averaging 4.7 yards per carry in a game.
All right, that's going to do it for the off-season edition of X's and Omar. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sending all your questions to us. We are going to do overtime, so if you are watching live right now and have sent us up some questions, we will answer them coming up soon, and we'll be back in a couple months.
Bye-bye.
All right, time for X's and Omar Overtime. You're watching us live, and it's time for us to answer your questions. But first, we have breaking news.
We have breaking news. Jason Taylor just announced that Jimmy Johnson, former Dolphins coach, former Dallas Cowboys, and former University of Miami coach, will be his presenter. Jimmy was the guy who drafted him. Jimmy basically began his career, handed him the keys to the car, and it makes sense to me. I just wonder why not Zach Thomas. This is a guy you began your career with. He's your brother-in-law. I know Zach probably isn't the greatest of speakers, and maybe it's an emotional moment for Zach as well. But, you know, does it make sense to you?
I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Pick whoever you want. What does it make?
It's a Hall of Fame. It's a Hall of Fame. It's like kind of. It's like it goes right along with your wedding and the birth of your kids. It's a special moment.
When you get in for the media side, who's speaking for you? Who's introducing you?
I never even thought about that or the possibility of it. So let's.
Can I do it?
Sure. Why not?
You all right? We have that on record.
Here's a question from Matt Bowden. Who's your number one free agent? Oh, we answered that question.
Rensek, what type of risks is Tannehill making this year that he didn't last year at this point? Risks.
He's throwing to receivers that aren't open. That touchdown pass that the Dolphins have actually put it up on Twitter. They had a mini camp practice on day number 2, Wednesday. The offense had like a 3-touchdown day into the B's. Devontae Parker, Tannehill backs up. Devontae's covered by Xavier. Tannehill cannons it. Devontae wasn't open. He's throwing to receivers that aren't open, and that's new and different for Tannehill. And I'm seeing it consistently, and we'll see.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right.
Jeremy Goldstein asks, how serious is Tunsil's injury? What are the best options left to fortify offensive line? Tunsil had a hamstring strain. I wouldn't say it's super serious because he tried to practice 1 week. 5 weeks of rest and training on his own should help him out. But hamstrings are indicator that something is brewing. Usually hamstrings indicate that stress is being put on the knee. We'll see. Hopefully nothing impacts Laremy Tunsil because he's a very important player for this season.
I think it could be really good.
Yeah.
Could be one of those guys that wind up being really, really good. Lucas, do you think Lawrence Timmons still has something in the tank because he has graded negative from Pro Football Focus the last 2 years?
Anybody who goes on Pro Football Focus gradings is a moron.
Sorry, Lucas, but that is true.
Yes, it's a joke. I like and respect a lot of things that Pro Football Focus does. Grades, not one.
And one of the ways that we've had to explain why that's the case is because Pro Football Focus doesn't know what the plan is, where those players are supposed to be.
Or what the assignment is.
What the assignment is, where those players are supposed to do in every certain situation. So someone could miss a tackle, but it's only because they're covering up for the other guy that wasn't where he was supposed to be. And for some reason, the guy who missed the tackle is the one that gets the negative grade. So you can't go by that stuff. Use your eyes.
Yeah, I like Lawrence Timmons. Is he athletic enough right now? Probably not, but he's physical. And what do you need in your linebacking
Stop
unit?
the run.
Physical. You need
Stop
a
the
physical
run.
presence. Absolutely. Thank you, Jesus.
Stop the run.
Stop the run.
All right.
Make it a little bit difficult for opposing offenses. At this point, do you think Charles Harris is the best first-round draft pick that we've had this decade? That's been asked by Rensek.
It's early, man.
It's early.
Oh, my God.
He's definitely the best pass rushing.
Okay.
Pass rushing. Only compare him to Olivier Vernon, Terrence Fede, and Deion Jordan. Well, that ain't that hard. Now, certainly we have to see what he does with pads. I think the benchmark for him would probably be what Olivier Vernon did in his rookie season. They're probably going to have the exact same role in their rookie seasons. I think Olivier had 5.5 sacks. That's probably about the mark that I would put on Charles Harris.
Alberto has a question about Koa.
Okay.
If he returns to full form, how does the depth chart, what does it look like? Do we have any?
If Koa Misi's battling a neck issue and it impacts his way he tackles, it's the same thing that Peyton Manning had, neck fusion surgery.
Sure.
They didn't practice him. He might begin on PUP.
Right.
He might begin the season on PUP and eventually be taken off. And so maybe we're factoring in Koa, who's not going to be ready to contribute until September. So let's put a pause on that and see how he begins training camp. But if Koa's healthy and Koa's Koa and the reliable guy that he usually is, why wouldn't I put him in on first and second down? When has Koa Misi ever let me down, let the team down?
Sure.
He's except for injuries, he's always done his job. So I definitely wouldn't rule that out in terms of what he can contribute and what he can do.
What's the line on how many games Pouncey plays? 10? That's too high.
I'm putting it at 12.
Okay.
I'm putting it at 12. I'm
I'll
a
take the
Pouncey
under
fan.
on 12. I'll take the under on 12.
I'm a Pouncey fan, man. And here's the reason why I think this year will be different than past years. Pouncey has always rushed himself back onto the field for his team. When has he not done that?
Right.
And when you sit there and you rush and you're not fully healed and you're not fully recovered, and then something else happens, or scar tissue develops, or the hip is sore again, when have you given yourself time? He had that stem cell transplant. That's supposed to speed up the recovery. Supposed to give him, regenerate new blood, new healing. I just wish the best for him, because if we go through another season where Pouncey can't play again because of these hips, probably could be time for retirement.
It's over.
Yeah, and I hate to say that, because when he's on the field, you're a different team.
Even when he's 70%,
Yeah.
they're different when he's out
You're
there.
a different team. So I'm all aboard the 16-plus plan for Mike Pouncey. I don't need Pouncey in a training camp. I don't need him in the exhibition season. Let him get ready for the season in season. And hopefully by the time, maybe I play him week 3 of the exhibition season. Maybe he practices that week.
Right.
Gives me 15 snaps in that game just so he could get a little action. Practice him, play him in that 4th exhibition game.
The third. You want to be one in the 4th one?
Third and 4th.
Okay.
Give me 15 snaps in the 4th one. You
Okay.
got to you can't sit out all the training camp and then just show up in the regular season. All right, I'm ready to go. like it takes a little time, man.
Yeah.
It takes a little time. You got to get used to the physical hitting, and that's a Thursday night game. By the time the season rolls around, let's say you don't practice all week until Wednesday.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Sure. Cam could do that, by the way. Just show up for the first day.
Cam can
could
do that. Cam can do that. Yeah.
All right, that's it for Overtime. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon.